What is going on, squad? So we got a question from Chris on, can we perform yielding isometrics and not get big? And the answer is absolutely. Now, when we're talking about hypertrophy, we're talking about how much tension is the muscle under, and how much load is the muscle under. Is it under enough load to stimulate a hypertrophic response? So right now, I'm doing a side elbow plank, all right? So this is working my oblique. It's also working my core, obviously. All right, this is not enough. Now, if I start to hold it for a longer time, I've been holding it for roughly about 40 seconds now, and the weight is also a factor. So I might need more weight on my side, like maybe a dumbbell here, to start stimulating a growth response. But I can tell you right now, I'm definitely stimulating a strength response. So my obliques will get very strong performing this daily. Now, of course, this suffers from the fact that the load is simply body weight. Now, we all know that we can get pretty big with body weight exercise. Just look at dynamic equivalent of this, calisthenics, right? So we know that we can get big with push-ups, squats, lunges, sit-ups. We can definitely stimulate a hypertrophic response. What needs to change? If our body remains constant, outside of obviously gaining weight, all right, what needs to change? The reps, the sets. Volume is the name of the game when we're talking about calisthenics, when we're just talking about body weight and its dynamic equivalent. Now, if we start to go into the realm of static, aka yielding isometrics, and I'm going to talk about yielding with weights too after this part. Yes, we can stimulate a hypertrophic response, but we're going to have to be under load for a long time. And it's going to have to be something that you measure as well. It's going to be definitely a lot of time under tension. You want a good example of this? So I've mentioned this in a couple of videos before, but if you look at ballerinas, right, their calves are under load for an extraordinary amount of time on a weekly basis. They're pretty much on their tiptoes all the time. Figure skaters are another great example of seeing isometric hypertrophy in action. Now, of course, there's still some dynamic to get into the raised position, but more often than not, it's going to be the amount of time under tension in that raised position. And they are on their feet, if we have any ballerinas or ice figure skaters on the channel, for hours and hours and hours. And this kind of pseudo goes into farmer strength. And if you haven't seen that video, here's a link right here. Go ahead and check that out. It's really good stuff. Now, let's transition to yielding isometric training with dumbbells, all right? So when we're performing any type of hold variation with dumbbells, it does not take long for that yielding isometric burn to kick in. You can have a isometric contraction of just 2 seconds, and that makes the whole rest of the exercise absolutely miserable, because for those 2 extra seconds of time under tension, we really fatigued that muscle. All right, so this clearly doesn't weigh much, right? But as we start to continue with this conversation, my delts are going to start to catch fire. It doesn't take too long for it to catch fire, but this is just yielding isometrics in a nutshell, and I already am starting to feel it. Now, this is not like a major burn or anything, but it's under load with no tension. So this is yielding isometrics at its basic level. Now imagine we are doing a shoulder press. So while we are performing the concentric phase of the movement with a dumbbell in our left hand, our right hand is staying in that isometric contraction. So it's starting to catch fire. In the very beginning of this, you're going to feel the arm that's performing the dynamic movement. You're gonna feel that burn a lot more at first, but this is going to catch up pretty quickly, especially if the weights are the same. Okay, because remember, when we talked about isometrics and concentric, eccentric, the dynamic equivalent, right? The concentric was the king at hypertrophy. But remember, isometric was right underneath it. This is great for stimulating hypertrophy. What has to be in place for hypertrophy? Time under tension, going to failure. Okay, all right, so it's starting to burn mildly now. It's definitely there. It's definitely not like how it was in the very beginning. I feel this now, so I'm going to go ahead and put it down. Shake that out. But I wanted to really make sure that I was clear on this point. You can have a hypertrophy response with yielding isometrics as long as the load is correct. If we're talking about body weight yielding isometrics like wall sits without stacking plates on your lap, then the wall sit has to be long enough where you took it to failure. The time under tension has to be taken to failure, the point where you look like a deer who's about to like collapse. If you've ever seen that meme and they're about to collapse, that's what you want to feel like in order to stimulate a hypertrophic response with a wall sit. Just to give you guys an idea. For planks, I mean, your hips are pretty much convulsing at that point. That means that they're giving out. That means that you took that muscle group that you're working to failure, all right? Even the side plank that I started the video with initially, as soon as you start to really shake and you can tell that it's like, oh man, I can't hold anymore, it's going down, that was to failure. Where you can no longer hold your body's weight up for that static contraction, that yielding isometric contraction, you have now taken that muscle group to failure. You have checked off what is required for hypertrophy. You took the muscle to failure. When we're talking about the dumbbells, or we're talking about the barbells, and we're performing pause reps, or for example, we just have a barbell and we're just holding it for time, as soon as they start saying, all right, captain, it's going down, you know what I mean? And you're shaking, it's just like your shoulders, your delts can no longer support this weight over your head, and you have no choice but to let it down. You have taken your muscles to failure. You have now gotten stronger. This sounds like a video game. You have now gotten stronger. You have leveled up. Your strength has increased. Your size has increased. You took the muscle to failure. Time under tension, it is the TUT. It is the number one factor in the entire hypertrophy response equation. There are other factors as well that are very important, but time under tension, did you take the muscle to failure? That is numero uno, baby. Take the muscle to failure. You will see size gains. You will see size gains. All right, guys, but what are your thoughts? Have you used isometrics to develop size? I've seen this in action personally over the years. The overcoming isometric beast it's a different beast entirely, but yielding, I've seen that plenty of times, as I'm sure a lot of us on the squad, we've seen that in the gym, or you're a practitioner of it yourself and you've gotten size gains. Go ahead and comment down below your experiences with it. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful on isometrics, go ahead and drop a like. And if you're not yet part of the squad, what you waiting for, man? Hit that subscribe button. Come join the squad with us. We'll see you next video. Peace.